In Iran, women's rights have changed according to the form of the government ruling the country. The idea and the concept of the women's rights have changed daily. These shifts came from standard views such as history, legal, and cultural laws, and occurred through daily conversation and individual choices. Joining with me right now, Mrs. Nicole Sadighi from Los Angeles, filmmaker, journalist, and philanthropist. Thank you very much for joining us to this party event and the Cyrus Forces Coalition. Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi Rahimi, for inviting me. It's a privilege to speak to you today.
So anyway, whatever that's happening right now in Iran and the oppression of the human rights as well, women's human rights, from one side and from 1979 until now, and all the protests that you see in 2009 and everyday protests, we see the women that are on the front of the fighting for their human rights and women's rights legally as well, in comparison with the other countries in Europe and so on. As activists that you're outside the country, that you support these women, how does it look from as an outsider that you're really you're with them and you don't know how to gonna say that just by activities that you do outside, by filmmaking, writing, advocating the voices in supporting these human rights, women's right in Iran?
Yes, I've as a woman, as an Iranian-born woman who was forced to grow up outside of Iran because of the Islamic Republic occupation of my country. It's very concerning for me to see what's been going on inside the country since, honestly, the inception, since day one of this Islamic Republic that occupied the country. People have been disingenuous, they've been lacking freedom, they have no voice. And if you look at the last decade particularly, you can see the women's roles has been an integral part of the protests and the demonstrations that we've seen going on in the country. They've actually done more than their fair share of playing a role in these countries, and they're extremely courageous and putting their lives in danger just to have a voice, to stand up for their basic freedoms and human rights. So from the outside, I'm full of emotions and have support for them, but at the same time feel helpless as to what we can do over here to help them gain their freedoms back.
So anyway, in the political rights during the first three, parliaments of Iran after 1979 revolution, just 3 seats out of the 268 seats. It means that 1.5 were held by women. But today, maybe there's more, and 17 women among the 271 individuals in the parliament. The presence of the parliament, maybe it's doubled, it's 3.3 out of the seats. But anyway, they cannot bring these voices of freedom that's coming from the society and the civil society to the public as well, legally to the parliament. Maybe part of these activities, activists in the parliament, they are politically not elected, but just got the permission to gonna get in, and they cannot say their voices inside the parliament. What do you think about the political rights inside the parliament in Mullah's regime?
Well, you have to really, in order to really measure how successful women's rights are, or unsuccessful, I should say, or perhaps non-existent in the country, you really have to measure it against something else. And I think it's important to look at a before and after picture of Iran. Before the revolution, women had many freedoms. They had equal rights. They had many social and political freedoms. They were able to wear whatever garments and clothing they wanted. They had a voice. They could, by choice, become a journalist, a scientist, or a politician, or a judge. They didn't have to fight for those freedoms. It was already there. It was handed to them. It was given to them. So that was before the revolution. If we look at now, since the Islamic Republic revolution, it's flipped. Women are fighting for those positions. If they're lucky to have them, it's possibly because they, I don't know of all of the numbers that you've stated there, but women have had to fight for these freedoms, and it's not given to them freely. They have to literally put their lives on the line just to have a voice. And so that's what we should really focus on. And if you look at, the recent decade, women have been the pioneers of these demonstrations that we've seen going on inside the country. And they've done more than their fair share of these demonstrations and risked their lives than even many of their counterpart males, Iranian males, who are also very brave. We can look at the 1 million signature movement, which was started by the women to collect 1 million signatures in protest of wearing the hijab. We can look at the recent activities of the women who stood bravely on walls and banners, holding their hijabs on sticks, and they were arrested. One of them was Azam Jangravi, who was arrested she was actually, there's a video of her, she was standing and she was violently pulled off by the Islamic police. God knows what they did to her in prison. Upon her release, she made a statement actually, and I read it, and it's very, very telling. And I think it's important to listen to what she has to say. She said that she will carry on fighting for women's rights, and specifically mentioned that she wants to distance herself from any groups and activists who have been exploiting this movement for their own agenda outside of the country. She said that, those were her words. And, so these are the women who we should be focusing on. These are the women who don't have a voice. Perhaps there are women who do have parliamentary positions, and there are some. However, even they're not able to equally voice their opinions, even if they wanted to, for fear of retaliation. Women don't have rights in Iran, and they have to kowtow to, the narrative of the regime. So that's what we should focus on, are the women on the streets who are trying to fight for their rights and want to be heard.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Nicole Sadighi. I'm just from this podium or asking for other activists, human rights activists, going to join us if they have any new ideas. It's just about the Iranian human rights and any other ideas, that you can join us to this program, Cyrus Forces Coalition as we're party of band. And for the next program, we can have another topics that we're gonna invite others gonna join us. Thank you very much, Nicole, to gonna be with us till next program. Goodbye.
Thank you.